Hello and welcome to Through the Net, where we talk all things NBA. My name is Ryan McNeill.
And I am Ethan Dubrowsky.
Now let me ask you, Ethan, who do you have in the MVP conversation this year?
So this year, really tight race between Nikola Jokic, two-time reigning MVP, Giannis Antetokounmpo, always a threat. You know, he's Giannis. I mean, not much else to say. And Embiid, who is having arguably even a better year than last year now that he has a second superstar to play off of, which forces teams to extend. They can't focus him anymore. So I honestly have to say that right now my MVP race is between Giannis and Embiid. And my main criticism of Jokic is that there is a glaring flaw that arises from him in the Nuggets that teams have begun to expose, which will only become more pronounced in the playoffs, which is his inability to play defense in the post, which we saw the Spurs, they went 62 points in the paint. And the most valuable player also has to be valuable on both ends of the ball, which I see Giannis, he's always a depoy candidate. Embiid, he's just having the most insane season of his career so far, both on offense and on defense. So I think it could be either of those two. If I had to pick one, I would go with Giannis just because the Bucks are first in the East by 3 games. They have the best record in the NBA by, the first team to 50 wins. They don't even have 20 losses at time of recording. And they look like real contenders. They're a very strong team. They're 8-2 in their last 10. And Giannis has really stepped up his production as the season's winding down, which is, better than getting hot at the start and cooling down for the playoffs.
I agree. I think Giannis is the best player in the league, first of all. And he is having a phenomenal season. Personally, I do go with Embiid with this one. I agree with everything you said about Jokic, where he's got these 2 MVPs. I think he's phenomenal. He just doesn't have kind of that it factor where I can more easily see Embiid being the best player on a championship team than Jokic can.
Yes.
Even though Jokic spreads the ball around more. And Embiid is having the best season of his career, 33 points per game, by far his best shooting season. And people say, they're the 3 seed, but the Nuggets are the 1. The Sixers have virtually the same record.
Yeah,
just because
the
East is
Eastern
stronger.
Conference is the stronger conference, which, that feels weird to say after, 30 years of the West being better. But
yeah. And I also feel that Giannis he hasn't missed a lot of time, but he's missed a few games here and there. The Bucks have been a little streaky, but they have caught fire right before the All-Star break.
Which is when you need to catch fire, really.
Yeah, they are hitting their stride exactly when they need to be, and they're gearing up for another title run. But personally, I go with Embiid on this one. I wouldn't be mad if Giannis won it, though. I just think also it's been, even though I do think it's going to be Jokic, I think averaging a triple-double at center, they're going to give it to him, but I've never seen a year where I think there's 3 candidates that are this strong.
Yeah, and I mean, the MVP is a regular season award, and looking at the numbers that Jokic is putting up, he's also been really strong this last week. I mean, he put up 37 against the Spurs, which they lost, as the Spurs put up 62 in the paint against Embiid, or against Jokic, my apologies. He put up 35 and 20 against the Nets, another loss, and then 28 points on 10 for 13 shooting last night against the Raptors. So really impressive numbers from Jokic, but I think there's almost MVP fatigue. People are tired of seeing Jokic win, and that's a combination of him being a player who's not very explosive, so he doesn't have the same entertainment value as Giannis or Embiid do, and isn't playing a big market, so there's no clamoring. So the majority of NBA fans are not rooting for the smallest market to get the MVP. They want it to go to a guy in New York, a guy in Los Angeles, a guy in Chicago. For instance, LeBron's always in MVP talks, kind of tangentially, not as serious anymore.
Yeah.
But he's always up there. He always gets mentioned, even if his numbers aren't as good, just because he is the face of the league and he's playing in the biggest market. So I think that's something that you have to factor in, that the majority of NBA fans and possibly voters are a little over Jokic, which it feels weird to say about a superstar NBA player who can, at any given night, give you 35, 20, and 11. But it's, I think, undeniable. They don't really want to give a three-peat, especially when people have said that Jokic has stolen an MVP already from Embiid.
I agree last year. It could have easily gone to Embiid. I think it probably should be Embiid this year. And I totally agree with the MVP fatigue, is that I think the voters and the league in general are going to look at and say, is it best for the league that our MVP for 3 straight years is this not flashy, pudgy, a Serbian player or whatever it is, who doesn't have the same star power, or like you said, playing in a big market like Embiid, who's an entertaining player to watch, flashy. He's a 7-footer who can shoot threes and is incredible in the post, and he playing in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
I think all those factors make me want to say Embiid has a chance, but I'm still not sure. I think it'll be very, very close.
I do. And I think that there's always, I mean, I'm not going to rule out anyone. I mean, you can't go, oh, there's no way Jokic wins, because there is a way Jokic wins. He wins by being, the best regular season player.
Yeah, literally averaging a triple-double.
Literally averaging a triple-double. I mean, until 2 games ago, he was undefeated in games he got a triple-double. He had 24 wins in a row with a triple-double. And that's a very impressive stat, and I think people are going to look at that and go, oh, Jokic could be the MVP, because the most valuable player in the league also has to be the most valuable player on their team, and I think Jokic elevates the Nuggets to a level that the other players, where if he doesn't exist, this roster is maybe an 8 seed.
Yeah, and the Sixers are probably still in the mix somewhat if Embiid isn't there.
If Embiid's
just because Harden is still has enough left in the tank.
If Embiid got hurt mid-season, the Sixers would still probably be a top 5 seed in the East.
I mean, you look at where Brooklyn is right now with
Yeah.
all their issues, trading away their best players mid-season.
Yeah, without
They'd be in
KD
the same spot.
Without KD and Kyrie, they're a 6 seed and 1 game out of the 5 seed.
Yeah, I think the Sixers would be in a similar situation with Maxey, Harris. They can both hold down the fort.
I would say that
enough.
Maxey and Harris are better than the cast in Brooklyn right now.
Oh, I agree with that too, yeah.
So Harden, Maxey, Harris, I'd say those guys are all better than the example you gave of the Nets, who really they only have Mikal Bridges as that star, and Dorian Finney-Smith, I guess, can give you 15. If
Bridges
he
is
gets
also
lucky.
a rising star. He's not a proven.
He's not a proven star either. He's very streaky. Spencer Dinwiddie, who will play hero ball and then deny Mikal Bridges his opportunity. We're getting away from MVP talk, but now we're talking about the other teams in the East. So I want to ask, who do you think is going to come out of the East? What's your Eastern Conference Finals prediction, and who wins it?
I got Milwaukee.
Milwaukee?
I don't see a situation where Milwaukee doesn't come away with this one, because I just think last year they went 7 games with the Celtics without Chris Middleton, and they lost because Grant Williams hit 8 threes in Boston for a Game 7. I think this year they have Chris Middleton, who hasn't been fully available, hasn't been fully healthy as much as they would like, but they're gonna have the cast back together. They added Jay Crowder, which I think is a huge glue player to have.
Very good player, especially for the roster construction. They need a 3-and-D guy, and Jay
Yes.
Crowder, he can hit threes and can play great defense.
I'm a Celtics fan, and I was so upset when the Bucks got him, because he's the exact kind of player I wish the Celtics would get, and he went to your biggest opponent, the biggest thing standing in your way
So
for a championship.
who do you see being the other team who goes to the Eastern Conference Finals? Who do you see losing that? Do you see any surprise teams making it, or do you think it's going to be Celtics, Sixers, whoever makes it out of that series alive?
I think right now the way the Celtics are playing, they are not hitting their stride at the right time. They're struggling at the worst possible time. There's, 10, 12 games left, and the Celtics need to get hot quickly, or else they're going to be in trouble for not just if they have to run into the Sixers, if they have to run into Miami in the first round, God forbid. But I think
Miami's
it'll be
the 7th seed right now by 3 games.
Yeah, I think it'll be Bucks Sixers in the Eastern Conference Finals, and Embiid is as unguardable player in the league. Giannis is as unguardable player in the league. I think Giannis has the edge. I think he's also hungry. He has a drive and a passion which are practically unparalleled to a lot of the players in the league. And he's smart. And I personally, I think I don't see anybody beat Milwaukee. In all
The
honesty.
NBA is a star-driven league. Giannis is probably the biggest star in terms of how good he can be in a playoff game. The Celtics, they have the same core, but they're missing their coach, and they have Joe Mazzulla, and
Who did a good enough job.
he's a good enough job, but he's an inexperienced coach.
Yeah.
And to be honest, when I hear the name Joe Mazzulla, he sounds like a mid-major basketball coach.
That's true.
Like, I expect 2 weeks before college basketball season to read a John Rothenstein tweet like, ooh, at practice here at Ryder, year 3 of the Joe Mazzulla era about to get underway.
Yeah, and that was one of the most important things was that they were first round exit, and then Udoka comes in, they go to the finals, practically with the same roster.
Yeah.
People to understand how he was the guy who got the locker room mentality right.
I don't know
And
how
It's going to be tough for Missoula to carry
Mazzulla
that.
doesn't have that playoff experience as a head coach, and Spoelstra
Yeah,
has
that
plenty.
neither.
Spoelstra has 2 championships.
Yeah.
I mean, so that's going to be a real coaching chess match, and I think the Heat always play hard.
Yes.
Even if they have 10 dudes you've never heard of and Jimmy Butler.
Yeah.
I mean, they will find dudes on the street, send them to Sioux Falls for a month, and they come back and they can hit 40% from three. So the Heat are always a scary team. They're not contenders anymore, but I could definitely see them pulling off an upset in the second round if they get the right matchup. And I think the Celtics would be the right matchup for the Heat.
Oh, exactly. The Heat could totally beat them in 6, let alone 7. Who do you have at the East? Do you have the Bucks as well?
I do. So, but I do think, as much as I dislike them, my least favorite team in the league currently are the 76ers. But I do think that they're hot at the right time. They have 1.5 superstars.
That's fair.
I mean, Harden, ever since his hamstring injury, he has not been the same, but he's been very good.
Yes.
And he doesn't...
anybody saying, Harden's washed, he's still giving you 20 and 10 and facilitating the ball at his best level.
He has changed how he plays to make up for the hamstring injury, which I think makes the Sixers very dangerous.
And exactly what he's needed to do, the last 4 years of his career. He has to realize, I can't keep taking all these shots. We're not going to win. And
but
now
Houston,
he actually is doing it out of necessity.
Houston, he needed to be the guy who took shots because who else was going to score?
Chandler Parsons, maybe.
Eric Gordon, he could drop 50 on you in high school, but not in the NBA.
That's fair.
I mean, the greatest high school player of all time, Eric Gordon. But
don't forget about Thon Maker.
Thon Maker, the shot maker. I wonder what he's up to these days.
Now let's move.
I don't even know.
So we can agree to Bucks out of the East. Who we got out of the West?
Out of the West, that's tricky because...
Very open. And it's been very open all year, I feel.
I don't have faith in any of the top 3 seeds.
Neither do I.
I mean, the Kings have been a great story. I mean...
But come on.
The Summer League highlight of the Kings was their fan chanting that they were going to win 40 whole games. Well, congratulations, you're 40 and 27.
As of this recording, 40 wins.
I don't know if they can beat the Clippers in a 7-game series. I don't know if the Grizzlies can... And the Grizzlies can probably beat the T-Wolves, but I don't know if they can beat the Clippers either.
Especially overcoming all of the circus that their team has become.
And I think if the Lakers win the play-in, they'll cause a lot more problems for the Nuggets than any other team down there.
I agree with that.
Because the Lakers have a strong center, and they're hitting their stride too. They made some very savvy moves at the deadline, so they're surging upwards.
Great deadline for the Lakers.
Amazing deadline.
They were hopeless, and credit where credit's due. I think Pelinka's been absolutely horrible for them, but at deadline he was masterful.
Yeah. So the Lakers, they might be so good that they end up getting that 7 seed, which would be bad, which would be good for the Nuggets. The Mavericks are currently a 9 seed, which is interesting to me because they have sunk. They're 3-7 in their last 10. Lakers are 7-3. So the anti-Lakers.
It's that Kyrie factor.
It is. I think that the 2 strong guards from the Mavericks really don't make up for the rest of the roster construction being not great, especially as the Mavericks lost some of their glue with Dorian Finney-Smith being gone. He was one of their key 3-and-D guys. Now they don't have any 3-and-D guys. They just have 2 elite point guards and no defense.
Yes, so that's the big thing, is that neither of those guys play defense. And can both of them score a bunch? Yeah, you can't just outscore everybody every night. And those 2 guys step on each other's toes with how much each of them has to dribble the ball into the ground to be effective and take a lot of shots
and they
to
both
be effective.
They both have above 30% usage rates.
Yeah.
So that's 60% of your shots being taken by 2 players. So
that's scary.
I think the Suns, with KD stays healthy, which he hasn't been healthy so far. He's been on and off. But I think this extra rest time will have him refreshed by the second round. I mean, the Suns-Warriors series is going to be a bloodbath if it happens.
That'll be amazing if that happens. I really hope that happens.
I honestly think that teams would rather have the 6 seed than the 5 seed, looking at the Warriors, Clippers, and T-Wolves.
Oh, 100%. I would rather play the Kings than anybody else.
I would rather play the Kings or even the Grizzlies than play the Suns.
100%. Yeah. The Suns are an interesting situation because when they got Durant, there were 19 games left. And I said, I don't know if they're going to have enough time to gel and form an identity in only 19 games. And then he only played 3 of them. And then he got hurt. And now he might come back for the last few games of the season, the start of the playoffs.
Durant.
But that's the thing. It's Chris Paul, Devin Booker, Kevin Durant.
And DeAndre Ayton.
Ayton. I'm scared about their depth and how cohesive they will be. But with that kind of talent, I can't rule out that they're just going to get through everybody.
I think Ayton has really proven why he has been a number 1 pick, almost under the radar. People kind of forget that Ayton was a number 1 pick.
Because he's the 3rd most famous guy on his team.
Yeah. But he has really filled in that role well.
He's
and
a beast.
He proved why Phoenix drafted him. They needed a center, and he has developed into this big, strong center who can score.
He's going to get paid.
Primarily in the paint. He deserves to get paid.
He deserves to get paid.
He's probably not going to get paid by the Suns.
No, he hates it there. He doesn't want to go back.
Yeah.
That's why I think if what the Suns should have done, they should have also asked for. They said to Brooklyn, "We'll give you Ayton for Nick Claxton." I thought should have been a wrinkle in there, because know Ayton's out of here. Claxton, and Ayton's shots are going to go down with Kevin Durant coming in anyway.
Yeah,
Claxton can more or less replicate what you
as much as I love the Alchemist, I think that would have been a good trade for both sides. I think Ayton. I think he's going to be one of the X factors for this Suns team because he provides a post presence that nobody else in the conference can really match.
Yeah.
I think that 1-4 matchup in the second round between the Nuggets and the Suns, I think the Suns take that in 5 or 6. I don't think that the Nuggets can match.
I don't know if it's that bad. I think it goes 6 or 7 in either direction.
I don't know. I don't have faith in the Nuggets to.
I think the Nuggets are an
defend.
accident waiting to happen. I don't know if they. I don't know. I don't have much faith in the Suns either, though.
I think the Suns can simply boat race the Nuggets offensively because, the Nuggets have a spongy post defense, and if they try and wall up with extra guys down there, the Suns have 3 other guys who are snipers.
Is that your Western Conference pick?
My Western Conference pick is the Suns, and I wanted to do a Suns Warriors conference final before realizing they would face off before the conference finals. That might be a first round series. That might be the best series in the playoffs, and it'll be a first round series.
That's wild.
So my Western Conference finals. Looking at the bracket now, I have to try and avoid picking 2 sides who are going to end up facing off before the Western Conference finals. This is hard.
You can just pick 2 teams. A lot of things could rearrange.
True. I have the Suns. I don't know if I believe in the Nuggets. I don't know if I believe in the Grizzlies with all the controversy and the culture issues going on. Even outside of John Morant, Dylan Brooks has been getting into beef with everybody. I don't know how well that team will stand up to adversity.
They're very juvenile and not in a admirable way.
I think they can get. I think Suns Clippers is a possibility for the Western Conference Finals, especially if whoever wins the Suns Warriors series. I think goes to the conference finals.
Okay.
I have the Suns personally, but
in the finals.
Yeah, I think the Western Conference Finals. Whoever wins the Suns Warriors series, and then the Clippers.
Okay. I think I'm gonna go.
Clippers are a weird pick because they're very
You never know what you get.
average on paper, but they do have 2 proven playoff performers and a solid cast around them.
Yeah.
The Clippers are not built for the regular season; they're built for a playoff run.
I think Ty Lue's a good coach too.
He is.
Ty Lue's been there. I'm gonna go Warriors Clippers in the Western Conference Finals.
I respect it.
Because
We both have faith in the Clippers, even if they added Westbrook.
yeah, even though they had Westbrook, because like I said, Nuggets don't believe in, Grizzlies don't believe in, Kings don't believe in. The Suns, I have more faith in, but I still think it's just so late in the game. Kevin Durant's going to be dealing with an injury. There's just going to be too much. I think there's just too much for them to overcome quickly as well.
I think that we're nearing the end of the Warriors window, and I think they realize that. So they're going to go all in for one last great playoff run.
That's why I have the Warriors in the finals. I think they're going to beat the Clippers in the Western Conference Finals. If I had to pick right now, and because I think they just have
Wiggins is out.
I still think they got infinite more experience than everybody else.
True. They know what it takes to win
Clay is
championships.
hitting his stride. Clay is almost back to being Clay again. And Steph is 35, still just as good as ever. And Draymond also realized, like you said, realizing this could be their last big year for the window.
This could be their last dance.
Dre could be out of here after this offseason, too. He's going to be as hungry as any of them to get one more up there.
And they also have very good defender Gary Payton Jr.
Yeah.
Very good defender.
Yeah, that was a good deadline move by
They
them as well.
have Dante DiVincenzo, he's another solid defender. And defense matters in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't play it much in the regular season, but, those guys who can show up. I mean, Jordan Poole can go off on any given night.
So the capabilities of Poole and Kuminga.
They're kind of wild cards where
that's the thing. It's like
if Steph or Clay or Wiggins ever give you a bad night, you might be able to count on Jordan Poole to randomly drop 30 and make up for that scoring.
They're good ingredients for a championship team where you're not getting 22, 23 out of them a night, but when you need 22, 23, more often than not, they're there and they step up. And you don't need them that often when you have a guy like Steph Curry. So I got Bucks Warriors. Who'd you say? Suns Bucks?
Suns Bucks.
Both of those would be great series.
I don't think it's going to work out because the Mavericks are falling apart, but a Suns Mavericks series would be juicy. I don't think it's going to happen. That would be juicy. I think that would be the perfect Storm for the NBA.
Suns Mavericks, you say?
Suns Mavericks. I think that would be.
I would never want two teams to lose so badly.
I think that would be what the NBA is looking for. I think the NBA is looking for the Mavericks to get that 8 seed, bounce the Nuggets, and then face the Suns in the second round. I think that
Scary thought.
especially as the NBA, we're now 3 generations of players into the NBA's drama and star-based marketing, where stars and narratives matter more than the actual games on the floor. This almost soap opera of the NBA.
Yeah.
And so the NBA would love that, because you look at NBA marketing, you look at a game, it's like, oh, it's not, oh, these two great teams. It's, oh, star player 1 versus star player 2. They face off. And then all the talking heads who cover the NBA are like, oh, here's the narrative, here's the drama. And there's no greater drama in the playoffs than a possible Suns-Mavericks matchup.
When it gets personal, when it's individuals.
Yeah. I mean,
Now, let's get bold. Who you have as a sleeper team out of the East?
sleeper team out of the East. Well, not the Hawks.
No.
No. The Heat, if they get the right matchup in the playoffs, could go to the second round. I don't know if I have faith in them to go farther than that, but I think they could pull off an upset. The 4 and 5 seed, whoever gets that, between the Cavs, Knicks, and Nets. I think the Nets have an interesting recipe of players. I don't think they're contenders, but I think they can make a little bit of noise. I think if they match up with the Sixers, I think that's a repeat of the 2019 series, except maybe the Nets win 2 games instead of 1.
That's a nice way to put it. They can make some noise, but nobody thinks they're really going anywhere.
Yeah, I think that
They're a likable team, too.
I think that a Sixers-Nets series goes the same way as 2019 when they matched up. I actually missed the first game of that because I was in Ecuador.
Humble brag.
So I think the Nets take game 1. The Sixers will bounce back in games 2 and 3, try and reclaim home court advantage. I think the Nets could take them to 6 or even 7 if things go right. And I think that that's an interesting series just because Harden, former Net, now the team that blew up, isn't there anymore. And I think that's going to be the real test for the Nets. Like, how will their young core of guys, I say young core, but they're like 28.
Yeah.
How will those guys step up, and who will step up in playoff time for this unproven team? Will it be Mikal Bridges? Will it be Claxton? Will it be someone we haven't seen? Will it be like a Yuta Watanabe or a Cam Thomas? How well will these guys adjust to the playoffs? So I don't think they're a contender, but I think that they can make noise for a few games in the first or second round. I think the Knicks, they're on paper, they could beat the Cavaliers, but games aren't played on paper. I think Donovan Mitchell is very good. But I think the Cavaliers are going to run into issues with their 2 big men who are both very good, Mobley and Jared Allen. I think those are going to cause a little problem because you can't really have both of them on the court at the same time.
Yeah.
And you can't...
Doing the same thing as well.
Yeah. And that's going to be an issue for minutes, especially in the playoffs. I mean, unless, you balance them out. Oh, you play 22 minutes, you play 22 minutes. But that's going to cause issues with the players themselves. They think they're better than 22 minutes a night. They think they're a 35-minute-a-night guy. And I think the Cavaliers look a little vulnerable. I think the Knicks or the Nets could beat them in a 7-game series. I think Jalen Brunson, the Knicks are hot right now. Jalen Brunson's, he had a very good month of February. He had one of the best months of the year out of any player in the NBA.
I think the Knicks are a really, really solid team. And across the board, too. Emmanuel Quickley, Jalen Brunson, Barrett, Randall. They have a lot of guys who can ball. They don't have a guy you can point to and say, oh, he's the guy who's going to step up in the big moments. If they come up against the Cavs, it may come down to who's got to make a shot or make a big play. I trust Mitchell more than anybody on that Knicks team.
True.
Knicks team is younger, though, too, as well.
I think the Cavaliers have the 2 best players, but I think the Knicks have the next best 3 or 4 or 5.
Yes, that's a very good way to put it.
So I think the 2 biggest stars are on the Cavs, but maybe the Knicks' depth is just too much for them to handle. I don't know if I have any... I think the East is very top-heavy. I think the West is very middle-heavy. I think the biggest hitters in the West are in the middle, and the biggest hitters in the East are, rising to the top where they belong. But the West, I have no faith in the Kings. I'm sorry. I love the story of the Kings. I'm not trusting Malik Monk.
No.
Alex Len, P.J. Dozier. Those guys are not going to rise in the playoffs. Rashawn Holmes. I mean, De'Aaron Fox is good. Sabonis has gone like peanut butter and jelly, him and Fox. A lot of people question that trade. A lot of people thought it was a terrible trade for the Kings, but you know what? They look really smart for it because
Sabonis is damn good.
Sabonis fit right in with Fox, and Halliburton's been struggling to find his legs under him. I mean, the Pacers are 31 and 38, and as good as Halliburton is,
Pacers are really good on paper. Like Mathurin and they got like 4 or 5 guys who average like at least 15, and they've done nothing with it.
the Pacers are always good on paper. I mean, Larry Bird's a good GM on paper, but when it comes time to get results, like he hasn't really accomplished much since building that 2013 team. It's been 10 years since the Pacers were last relevant.
So out of the East, you say the Nets make a little noise?
I think the Nets make a little noise. I think the Knicks can make a little noise. Both New York teams. I say the Heat are the biggest pick to upset a 2 seed.
That's my sleeper team. I agree that the Knicks can make some noise. I think they could go on a little bit of a run, but the Heat, just because of who Butler is, and not because of the provenness of Adebayo or Hero, but the capabilities of it. The capacity that either of those guys has to have a 30 and 10 night. The idea that every now and then it gets put into action. It's not consistent, but if they get hot, which they're running out of time to get hot, that's why it's a bold prediction, that's why it's a sleeper team, I think the Heat could make a little noise.
Jimmy Butler, they added Kevin Love, who will provide a nice spacing.
Yeah, a nice 7-7 guy.
He's tall and he can shoot threes.
Yeah,
and I think that
good locker room guy, good vet.
I think that sometimes your team just needs guys who can, stand in the corner and hit threes. Udonis Haslem, this is his last dance. You think he gets?
Think he plays 30 seconds in the playoffs?
I don't know. Maybe garbage time.
Yeah.
Maybe before they get swept in the second round.
So out of the West, who you got as a sleeper team?
Out of the West, it feels weird to call a top 3 seed a sleeper team. I gotta say, but the Timberwolves, I don't think have it anymore. I think they traded away. I think the D'Lo trade has left them too post heavy.
Isn't Towns still hurt?
Probably. I haven't even heard anything about that. So I don't think Rudy Gobert's leading a playoff team. The Thunder are too young.
Yeah, Thunder I like, but are too young, yes.
It feels weird to call a team with LeBron James a sleeper team as well, but they're a 10 seed.
That's one of my sleeper teams.
They're not really a sleeper if they get hot anymore, but they're kind of awake. They're getting hot. They're 7-3 the last 10.
They are. There's a match.
There's a match. They match all the factors. They have the star players. They have the spacers. They have the guys who can get hot when no one else can, which is D'Angelo Russell. He can be your microwave. He can kind of heat up your offense artificially.
And the last time LeBron won a championship was with Kyrie Irving. And D'Lo is a Kyrie Irving light. You know, he is a point guard who gives you instant offense and can take the ball, can play off the ball when LeBron needs to play off the ball. So I think the Lakers, especially when Davis is having some monster games this season. Obviously, the consistency and health isn't there. But I think the Lakers are a scary team out of the West, potentially, especially if LeBron's foot is okay. And do you want a really bold prediction out of the West?
I would love one.
Now, there's a team that was really scary. At one point, it was like the 2 or 3 seed in the Western Conference in maybe November. And injuries have plagued them. If they got healthy and snuck into the play-in, the New Orleans Pelicans are a team that has so much talent.
That requires them to make the play-in first.
That's what I'm saying. They have to sneak into the play-in first. And Zion will be back for the last however many games.
I think at least one of the teams in the play-in is going to drop. I think Timberwolves or Thunder are the most likely to drop. I don't think Mavericks or Lakers are dropping out of the top 10.
I don't think either. They both have they're both too clutch. And I think the Pelicans can usurp the Jazz.
I wasn't even considering the Pelicans, but yeah, you're right. I mean, they have a really good top 3. They have some solid...
Yeah, like I said, this was a 2-seeded team. It's just health has plagued them. If they come back and are healthy, Zion, Ingram, McCollum, just that triumvirate, forget everybody else on the bench and they got other solid players on the bench. That 3 can lead a team. I'm not going to say they're going to go to the Western Conference Finals or win the championship, but that team can, I think, put some fear into the Grizzlies. I think they can go 6 or 7, even with a team like the Nuggets.
I agree.
If they can get hot, which they could easily get hot. There's a lot of ifs.
Let's not get too ahead of ourselves.
There's a lot of... Hey, it's bold predictions.
It is a bold prediction, but, I boldly predict that, maybe the Grizzlies aren't as bad culturally as they look. I mean, maybe Shannon Sharp was not the curse to the Grizzlies. But, I think the Grizzlies, they're like a coin flip for me. They're either going to be very good or they're going to flame out very fast. And I think either option is very funny.
Yes.
And I think either option would be great for, podcasts.
Yeah.
I don't know if it would be great for the league, but,
It's all about having fun.
their star player is suspended for 3 more games. The suspension came down today, 8 games, but the 5 he was already out for count for the suspension. So he's going to be back in time to play the Mavericks because I think that they made that ruling so that he could come back against the Mavericks. Because if they were playing the Spurs, he would be out for a full 8 games.
Yeah.
Like their
that's
schedule is not great after that Mavericks game. They have a very light schedule. They're playing most of the bottom of the conferences. So I think they wanted John Morant back for that national televised game, and then they don't care because nothing else is going to happen with the Grizzlies. They're going to stay the 2 seed because they play the Spurs, the Rockets at least one more time. I think they'll play the Hornets and the Magic. I mean, it's a very weak schedule for them.
Yeah, the Grizzlies they're such a wild card. It's hard to believe in them at this point in the year. And who did you ultimately say you think was winning the chip? Did you say Bucks?
I think
You said Bucks Suns. Who are you picking? 3, 2,
Bucks.
1.
I gotta
Bucks.
go.
I also have the Bucks.
No.
Oh.
No. Now that you've said that you want the Bucks, I have to. I'm
Oh,
gonna
the
be Mr.
contrarian.
I am. I'm going to be contrarian because I think that the Suns, if fully healthy, if no one gets hurt, which, impossible challenge.
Yes, that is a very impossible challenge.
I think a healthy Suns team is very scary, and I think they just
agree
have
with
this is a star-driven league. The Suns have too many stars. I mean, they're literally named after the star. I mean, it's all lining up.
Wow.
It's all lining up for the Suns.
That's the best dad joke I've ever heard.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I mean, they added Terrence Ross, who could be. It's a very weird name to say is an X factor, but
He is.
he's an X factor. He shoots 40. He shoots almost 40% from 3.
And he's maybe the best player on their bench, which is
I
not
mean,
a good sign, but
you need a spark plug.
He's something.
If you need a spark plug, you have Terrence Ross and Landry Shamet, who on any given night can give you at least 3 or 4 3-pointers. Landry Shamet can also go 0 for 29, like he's Deion Waiters, but
No matter what,
But in the playoffs, rotations shrink, so you'll really need 8 guys in the playoffs.
yeah, that's one of the curses of having a lot of depth is that
It
the
doesn't matter in
playoffs,
the
it comes
playoffs.
down to what are your stars going to do. So if you have a 2 great backup centers, it's like it doesn't matter. You need one, and you need another guy to play 10 minutes. That's it.
But I think the Durant, Booker, Chris Paul, Okogie, Ayton lineup is just going to be
That's
too
hard
much.
to beat. Yeah,
It's going to be too much for a lot of teams.
that's enough to
Okogie's really
overpower
come
a
out
team.
on his own.
Yeah,
Okogie's having a year.
That's enough to overwhelm a team that it doesn't matter what their
If
bench
those
does.
guys play 40 minutes a night,
Yeah, and even like Campaign, T.J. Warren, Terrence Ross, they can. If they had a 10-point lead, they can hold it to 5. I'm not going to say they're going to keep it at 10 or extend the lead, but they can hold the lead. I guess you could say they're not going to blow it.
and also in my heart, I have a soft spot for Bismack Biyombo. I hope he wins it. I hope he wins a ring.
It's just the best name.
He
Did he
also-
already win a ring with the Raptors? Wasn't he on that team?
I think he was on the Hornets that year. I think that was at the tail end of his
Let's double
ludicrous
check.
extension from the Hornets.
Last order of business: does Bismack Biyombo an NBA champion?
I think
Bismack Biyombo.
he gave
is-
all of his salary to help build a hospital.
Bismack Biyombo is not an NBA champion.
Yes.
With that knowledge, I am now picking the Phoenix Suns to win the championship because I would also like
Oh.
Bismack Biyombo to win an NBA championship.
He's given his whole salary this year to help build a hospital in the Congo, where he's from, the Republic
I did
of
not
the
know
Congo.
that. That's
I
awesome.
mean, he got a $15 million per year extension from the Hornets a few years ago, which was like
A lot
an
of money.
anchor on them. So they
Yeah.
couldn't ever contend because they had to pay Biyombo. But I love the guy.
That's awesome, though.
And
That's really cool.
I think that I really hope he wins a ring. He's also not a bad player. We're joking about
No,
him.
he's a decent center.
He's a very decent center. You can play those 8 minutes a game when Ayton needs to be on the bench.
Oh, exactly.
I mean, I trust him more than a guy named Jock Landale.
Chocolate.
Until preparing for this, I'd never heard of Jock Landale.
No matter what, this playoffs are going to be a fun one. Eastern Conference and Western Conference, multiple teams we could both see coming out of it. My name has been Ryan McNeill.
And I'm Ethan Dubrowsky. Thank you for listening.
This has been Through the Nets.